Hey everybody, Michael Snyder, Pacific Northwest Weather Watch. Today is June 15th, and today we're taking a look at the mid-level water vapor loop here, and you can see our system spinning up off our coastline. It's eventually going to drop a little bit further south and closer to the coastline and bring a more southerly defluent flow aloft across the region with thunderstorm potential for some of the area, and it's hard to pick up these features sometimes until day of, so we're going to watch mainly the high resolution models tomorrow, the HER and the NAM, and we'll look at the RAP too and try to pick out to see if there is some thunderstorm potential for Portland and Seattle on this. Some of the Cascades definitely have the potential in portions of eastern Washington, Oregon, and especially eastern British Columbia. So we'll take a look at that in more detail tomorrow, but we'll also look at it a bit today and try to pick out some of the features. Taking a look down here, you can see we do have a hurricane across the eastern Pacific Ocean here, Hurricane Bloss. We'll take a brief look at that. I'll kind of show you some of the dynamics that go into play with a hurricane like this in this location. Now, taking a look here today, look, if you're out in the Seattle area here, the Puget Sound, check out this low tide happening at 12:09 p.m., the lowest tide in 13 years. Going to do it again pretty similarly low tomorrow afternoon as well, 12:58. So you'll get a chance tomorrow as well. But get out and check out the tide pools. It's really going to be extremely low. Again, the lowest tide in 13 years for the Seattle area. Now, yesterday we topped out at modest 63 degrees. That's 8 degrees below normal. We're going to remain below normal here until potentially early next week, where we might start to warm up a bit. Of course, nothing like the big heat wave of late June last year. And taking a look out here in July, do you guys remember this 103 degrees we had in 2009 across the region? I thought that was probably going to be a record high that stuck with us for a bit longer than it did, but that last year's June really blew that out of the water here. And you can see our average temperature as we get into later in July gets up towards 79 degrees. So you can see the warmest weather is still ahead of us here, but then we start cooling back down as we get towards later August, and especially start to drop off as we get towards later September. But checking out the heat advisories and the excessive heat warnings across some of the Midwest here and down through the Southeast here. So heads up if you're traveling out in those areas, some high wind warnings and advisories across Montana and the Dakotas there. Now this is that hurricane Bloss out here, and you can see its track. It shouldn't be a threat to landfall, and sometimes you might wonder, why don't these ever move up towards California? Well, I'm about to show you here in a moment. Check out the sea surface temperatures here. You can see why that hurricane would develop here. Hurricanes are fueled by their water, the warm water source here. So you can see once it starts to move across this 26, 25 Celsius barrier here, it really loses strength rapidly. So any storm that moved up here would rapidly lose strength, and you just have the momentum of the spin as it moved up, but you really lose that low level convection that hallmarks the hurricane. And checking this out here, you can see we are a little bit above average temperature off the coast of Mexico there. But as soon as, again, as this hurricane moves north, it's really going to lose its punch here pretty quickly. But taking a look here at the Western Pacific, check out this gradient here, the cooler air just on the north side of Japan versus on the south side here. And that's why they get some pretty strong typhoons out here in the Western Pacific. But this is also kind of boosted here. You can see the sea surface temperatures are higher than normal across the Western Pacific here, and that's a hallmark pattern of La Nina, or a hallmark signature of La Nina there. And that's what kind of keeps that extended jet stream going on out here, and it causes some ridging and ends up bringing us troughing downstream from that anomalous westerly flow aloft, especially up around 30,000 feet. But yeah, pretty good gradient going across Japan there if you're in northern Japan versus southern Japan, where they can get typhoons. Versus the northern portion is much cooler. So this is for today. General thunderstorm threat, North Cascades, Okanagan Highlands. This would include a lot of British Columbia also today. This is for tomorrow. You can see how they've brought this out across much of eastern Washington, down towards extreme northeast Oregon, Idaho Panhandle, western Montana. But look at, they put the Cascades of Oregon, even including Eugene and Medford, in the thunderstorm threat tomorrow, for Friday, excuse me. This is day 3. And now this could be extended into the Cascades of Washington, even into the lowlands of western Washington, western Oregon, include Portland and Seattle. Again, it's going to be tough to pick out these features until the day of. So checking this out, here's the European. This is the 060. You can see the low pressure kind of sag along the coastline. It does weaken pretty well, but look as it comes through Thursday. There's going to be some defluent flow aloft, and that's what they're calling for the thunderstorm threat up here, and you can see it through British Columbia too. It's going to exist during the day. as we go through Thursday. Then Friday, look at the southerly flow aloft, even some flow off the Cascades into the lowlands of western Washington and Oregon as we go through Friday evening. So I'm kind of looking for this area for some thunderstorm potential as we go through Friday afternoon. And then you can see this thunderstorm threat will extend into eastern Washington overnight Friday into Saturday morning as well. As you can see, this precipitation is going to continue on really through Saturday afternoon. Now, taking a look at the 700 millibar winds, this is 10,000 feet. Just wanted to highlight the system out here. You can see the southerly flow aloft as we go through Thursday really gets established here. But then check out Friday. Notice this easterly flow aloft. This is going to be coming off the Cascades, and this could steer some of this instability or these thunderstorms back over into the lowlands. But this is a very fickle situation here, and there's not much confidence in this just yet on just how much we're going to destabilize the atmosphere across the area. Here's the European showing lightning flash density potential. As we go through the day today, you see eastern British Columbia, higher terrain out there getting a thunderstorm chance today. As we go through tomorrow, you'll see that introduce into the North Cascades and Okanagan Highlands. It does show a little bit here through western Washington, so we'll have to watch for this too. I'll watch the 12Z and report back tomorrow morning and kind of see what kind of potential we're dealing with on Thursday. But there is a chance for a thunderstorm. It's very slight into western Washington tomorrow. But then as we look on into Friday, you'll notice this for the Cascades of Oregon starts to get introduced down there, even some of the southwest Oregon area there. And you'll see that kind of move up through eastern Washington Friday night, not really showing much in the way for the Cascades of Washington or the lowlands of western Washington. So we continue to watch for that. That can change quickly. And overnight Friday, you can see these thunderstorms moving through the Idaho Panhandle, western Montana towards Alberta. Now, this is total precipitation amounts. We're not expecting huge amounts here, but you can see the system come towards the coastline here, and mainly targeting the Cascades of Washington, British Columbia getting a decent dousing of rainfall here will help keep those, any kind of lightning strikes that might try to bring up any thunderstorms or any fires or anything like that. That will keep that at bay. You can see some pretty good totals going up through central British Columbia there. And then you can see as we go through Friday, some pretty good amounts through western Oregon, Cascades. The thing is, it might not be unstable enough to bring thunderstorms across a lot of western Washington, Oregon. But again, we'll keep our eye on it here. Now, this is looking at the surface temperatures. You can see Hurricane Bloss down here. I just wanted to put this into motion here. Watch this thing as it kind of moves towards the cooler temperatures and really loses its gradient rather quickly. So that's what's going to kill that hurricane. Then the GFS develops yet another one as we go on into the future here right along the Mexico coastline, which will likely suffer the same fate, of course, as it gets close to Cabo there, and then eventually starts to die off as it reaches the cooler waters that come down the west coast of North America. Now, here is 10,000 feet, 700 millibars. You can see the trough offshore. Here's Washington, Oregon, California. There's British Columbia and Alaska. Hawaii is way over here. You can see our trough move across the region here. This cold air drops across Northern California and Oregon, bringing that south-southeasterly flow across the region here. And if we had a bit more instability, we'd be talking about thunderstorms over the lowlands, but we'll see how this develops here as we go through Saturday. Here you can see this trough moving around and finally starts to fill and move inland a bit. And then the GFS shows something similar to the European here, bringing another trough quickly down later next week across the region, although the European does bring more of that cold air across Washington and western Oregon here. Now, checking out 500 millibars, 18,000 feet, shows our trough nicely here as it moves across southern Oregon and northern California. Some pretty chilly air aloft here. And you can see, again, that flow coming off the southeast here. So maybe we'll get enough instability for a thunderstorm. We'll see how that goes Thursday and Friday. Now, checking out here, 500 millibars, 18,000 feet on the European. That was the GFS we were seeing there. Here goes our trough. Good agreement with that as it kind of hangs out over southern Oregon, northern California here. And then we're looking for this ridging as we go into next week. How much of this ridging will set up across the region, and just how strong will this trough come barreling down across southeast Alaska and really makes a direct hit on Washington here. It would bring a pretty good convergence zone with a system like that. Would bring some strong onshore flow in its wake there and some pretty chilly air aloft. So we'll see how much this ridge sets up as we go on through early next week. We'll continue to watch that as we go through the days here. This is the European. You can see keeping us chilly all the way through the end of next week, then just kind of defaults back towards normal temperatures as we go on through the extended here. But it doesn't show us warming up that much next week. But I think we'll probably get a little bit warmer than this. If we get any kind of ridging at all, we'll probably get around normal temperatures. And you can see the GFS kind of highlights that. Here goes our trough as we go through Monday, and then you can see us warm up Tuesday and stay above average really on through the extended according to the GFS. So we do have some pretty good model discrepancy coming up here, folks, for next week on in through next weekend. We'll see which model wins out there. Seattle-Tacoma International, you can see it does highlight a little bit of precipitation here as we go through Thursday afternoon, and more precipitation Friday afternoon as we go through Saturday morning. You can see kind of the variance here, but nothing too extreme or heavy in the way of precipitation. Higher for the Cascades, of course, and any higher terrain, especially through British Columbia and maybe some of the Oregon coastal range and Cascades will get some higher precipitation amounts as the trough kind of hangs out a little bit closer to them. But yeah, so taking a look at things here, we're just going to deal with this system for the next few days. Going to keep us below average, continue to bring rounds of precipitation up over us. Slight chance for a thunderstorm across the region here. We'll look at the high resolution models tomorrow, and we'll try to pick out some of the features of the HRRR, the NAM, and the RAP that are agreeing with each other as we go through. Tomorrow morning, we'll probably have a pretty good idea what's coming tomorrow night, but then we'll continue to look at what's going to come Friday. So, yeah, it's good to be back here, folks. Glad you guys are still around, and leave some more feedback in the comments below. And I will talk to you guys tomorrow.